Now, the SNP and Scheming Sturgeon are still reeling from this car crash interview during which the fumbling First Minister admitted that trans women will be treated differently to biological women, you know, real women after all.
My question is, are all trans women women? You haven't answered that question.
Well, that's not the point that we're dealing with
That's
here.
the question I'm asking.
Trans women are women, but in the prison context, there is no automatic right for a trans woman.
So there are contexts where a trans woman is not a woman?
No, there is. Look, we're talking here about trans women.
And I'm now asking about women born as women.
I don't think there are circumstances there.
So after hearing their leader embarrassingly admit that she's actually a TERF too, a group of people who I'm proud to associate with but who Sturgeon has long demonised, let's not forget, a crisis in confidence is now spreading through the SNP. Separatist MPs like Alan Smith now find themselves unable to answer basic questions on women's safety.
What's your take on that? Do you think trans people who are convicted of crimes like that should be in women's jails?
I have nothing to say on that.
Smith, a close ally of Sturgeon, has also threatened to spark a civil war by demanding that any SNP politician who opposes their sick gender reform bill should resign and stand as an independent. Sturgeon's archenemy J.K. Rowling perfectly summed up the ridiculous corner that the SNP has painted itself into, tweeting, "I don't know about you, but excluding women from women's prisons just because they've got penises, male pattern baldness and have committed a couple of rapes seems awfully turfy to me." So, was Scheming Sturgeon's embrace of extremist woke ideology the beginning of the end for her and the SNP? Because, Amanda Patel, when push comes to shove, Sturgeon is a TERF. And I love the fact, and I did it on the show yesterday, I'm going to do it tonight, being a TERF, that's not a bad thing. You know, we have to reclaim this word.
Well, we do, but she's clearly not reclaiming it, is she, Dan? I mean,
she's been forced into it.
What she's done is, as Nicola Sturgeon, as I like to refer to as that overstuffed little haggis, I'm not sure if that is a male or a female. I just put that thought there. No, I did not say that.
Oh.
An overstuffed little haggis, is that male or female? Or is it transitioning? I don't know. Anyway, the point of this is, her policy was that she reduced the voting age in Scotland to 16. She even said in an interview 2 weeks ago that she thought the legal age for drinking in Scotland should be 16. Given they've got twice the mortality rate for alcoholism, it was a bit of a weird choice. She is pursuing the youth vote because she thinks that's going to save her because her polls are plummeting, Labour is resurging in Scotland, and then she thought, I've got this great policy. I'm going to get all the young people on board, and I get mixed up with the names, Dan, so I've got to refer to my notes. And then along came Adam Graham, or is it Isla Bryson, a double rapist. And her whole strategy for appealing to young people and saying this is a wonderful new world was totally blown apart. And she's in smithereens at the moment. She doesn't know where to go. She's contradicting herself. And, God, I just kind of love it.
I do too, but Rebecca, apparently you're very angry about this discussion. Why?
Because I don't think that the trans part of the discussion is being had in good faith. And so when we talked about it last week, I felt like I didn't feel like I represented myself the way I wanted to. And subsequently, having looked into it more, both the victims of the rapist in question and the former partner, Isla, or I can't remember what their original...
Adam or Isla.
I call him Adam Graham and I call him a
take
he.
a pick.
The problem is that you try and have a sensible discussion and then you end up talking about what you should call them rather than discussion. So anyway, that person...
Just call him a double rapist.
The double rapist, two things. First of all, their former partner said that they're actually not trans, that this is just a play.
And so
I think they're probably likely to know.
But the thing is, you say it's not important. I will let you finish your point. But the Gender Reform Recognition Bill does actually force the victims of rape to refer to their alleged rapist
the penis that raped
in court as she or her or whatever their new name is. And there was an opportunity for Sturgeon to actually overturn that part of the bill and say, while you're on trial for rape, you cannot self-ID. And she personally voted against that amendment, and it went through as a result.
I think the mad thing to me about what Sturgeon did is that she decided that really this isn't really about trans stuff for her, it's about Scotland. And this was the vehicle she chose for her ideological independence thing. But what
so she's made trans people the whipping boy.
She has, but also what I don't understand is if you were going to use one single hero figure for this discussion, why would you pick a double rapist who it turns out probably isn't actually trans?
She didn't do any of the work into it.
And this is the thing. She didn't do the research.
She didn't see the unforeseen consequences.
But she was told.
But come on, excuse me, Dan.
That was stupid.
She basically the recognition bill allows people to self-identify at 16. It's all about 16-year-olds. It's all about getting
or rapist or child abuse.
Calvin,
she was warned and told time and again. And do you know what's so despicable and why I'm so angry about what Scheming Sturgeon did? Not only did she ignore that advice, she denigrated folk like like J.K. Rowling. She allowed her MPs to go to protests where these horrible, vile people were holding up signs saying decapitate TERFs.
The number of trans people in Scotland would fit in this room. She's used them as a weapon,
as
a tool
I agree with that.
for her election campaigns. And she hasn't thought through the consequences that we've all been talking about for months on end. And now it's the roosters come home. What's the phrase? The chickens come home to roost.
Chickens come home to roost.
And she was stumbling through that interview because she sees the consequences of her direct policies has resulted in damage to women, in harm to women. So
Rebecca, are you prepared to say that it's no longer a put down to call someone a TERF for trans exclusion?
I mean, I've been called a TERF multiple times.
Let's not use their language, though.
I would never use that kind of terminology. The moment you use their terminology, you've given into their...
it's just a normal person.
But to be fair, for what
I'm just a woman who doesn't have a penis, okay?
But for what it actually means...
worried about women's rights.
I think it probably should be used in the same way that SWERF is, which is sex worker exclusionary radical feminists, which means there are feminists who don't believe that sex work is legitimate work, and that is a school of feminism. It's not one that I share, but it is one that I comprehend. We should be able to have a grown-up conversation.
Calvin's struggling with
I've got to say, I'm completely lost here. I have to say...
No, because prostitution is when you have penetrative sex for money, whereas sex work is an umbrella term which includes things like...
all I can see right now...